Hi, welcome back to Rose and Prose. We decided that's the name of our show.
Because we're going to talk about The Bachelorette, roses.
And prose, or literature. I've also been informed that will allow us to talk about Taylor Swift occasionally.
Yes. Okay, I did actually learn, because we're just going to dive right in.
Let's do it.
Jen was asked what Taylor Swift song she would use to identify her season of The Bachelorette.
Yep.
Do you want to take a guess?
I have no idea. Lover?
Fearless.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess she's going to take some chances. We'll see. I don't know. Looks like she's out for herself this season, which is good.
Yeah, she made that pretty clear. I have thoughts about that. Do you have any first thoughts you want to start us off, or you want me to start us off?
I mean, I have some favorites. I can start there. So if you're watching Sam M, he got the first impression rose. I thought the shot o'clock was a little immature, if I'm being honest. Although I have to remind myself that I'm 10 years older than The Bachelorette, so I'm aging myself. But I felt like he really understood her. He talked about reckless love. My favorite, Thomas A. brought the puppies. Oh my gosh. If anyone wants to try and date me... Oh, no, wait, I'm just kidding. I'm married to this guy. But if he ever brought me a puppy home...
She's saying if I'm dead.
Tell him to bring puppies home. Okay, Aaron. He's from Tulsa. He's the twin brother of Noah. We talked in the preview episode about how Bachelor in Paradise helps give people a second shot. Mm-hmm. Noah met his now fiancée Abby on Bachelor in Paradise, and they are engaged to be married. They are so cute. Also, if you like DIY home renovations, follow Noah on Instagram. So I'm excited about his brother Aaron. I'll stop there for now. Tell me your first impressions of the night.
My first impressions are pretty consistent with the start of every season, which is that there's a lot of peacocking and there's absolutely no substance. I mean, you're showing up with puppies, you're showing up with balloons, you're showing up with a car, you're showing up in bandages, like anything to leave a first impression. And I get it. Like, you want to set yourself apart, you want to make a good first impression. I make terrible first impressions. Like, I totally get that. But I think
I kind of feel like we should pause and maybe tell folks about our first date.
Do you want to tell it, or do you want me to tell it?
I mean...
So here's my version, okay? My version, I would have said in the last episode, is that we matched up on 2 dating apps, and I just did not believe that this was a real person. Primarily because I thought she was beautiful, I thought she was amazing, I thought she was accomplished, I thought she was funny. And so we started to chat back and forth, and then I just thought, there's no way that this is like a real person who looks like this. She's just too amazing. So we wind up on our first date, and I had absolutely no plan, because my plan was to go in and tell this fake person, you're a liar. That was it. That was the whole extent of my plan. And when I showed up and she was in fact real, I realized in that moment that I had no plan. So it was just a series of awkward exchanges after that. We continued some of the conversation that we had been engaging in online. But then, again, there was no plan. So when we came to the end of our meal, I said, well, I need to go to Trader Joe's. Do you want to come with? And I could tell that she reluctantly agreed. And so we're walking through Trader Joe's, and what was your take? What was your thing about Trader Joe's?
Well, I was like excited because Trader Joe's has affordable wine, and I was like, oh, I don't think he drinks alcohol.
And then we're checking in that season, I was not drinking a whole lot. Yes.
And then we're checking out, and he doesn't have anything.
I had nothing.
And I was like,
not buying anything.
I thought you told me you needed to go to Trader Joe's.
I was stalling. I was stalling for more time with this person. Yeah.
So we go out to the parking lot. And the way that I remember it is very nobly, gallantly, from a very feminist place in my heart, a place that wanted to empower you. I said, well, this is who I am. If you'd like to see me again,
You have my name, you have my contact info, and your impression of that was,
well, now we've met. Let me know if you want to see me again. I was like, okay. Yeah, now we've met. You're right. Yeah.
It was very awkward, and so I tried stalling again and said, I'm going to a bookstore. Do you want to come with? And she said no, because she had to do some Target returns, which at the time I thought was totally fake. I thought she was just trying to get away, so I was like, bless. I totally understand. I had botched it up. I got it. But I go to the bookstore, and I'm really kicking myself. I'm wandering around the aisles. I don't think I'm looking at anything because I'm just kicking myself. I thought that I had really screwed it up, and I had left a terrible first impression. There's no way that she would ever want to go on a second date. And then she messaged me, and she said, hey, I'm thinking, I've done my returns at Target. I'm thinking about meeting up. Are you still at the bookstore? And I just said, we're gonna ace this one.
Yeah.
And so we sat on the floor of the bookstore for like the next hour and a half, 2 hours, I think, talking and just kind of digging in, diving in. I think that she cried. I think that's one of my...
I don't think we went that far the first night.
I think we made... I think we did.
Well,
So, all that to say...
Speaking of people who cry the first night, Jen cried. Jen cried tonight.
Let's come back to that. So, I get that first impressions are very important, but I think that like on the first episode of both The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, no one leaves a really strong impression to me. Of course, I'm not The Bachelor, so I am a bit more objective in that.
Did you have a favorite?
I had no favorites.
The one that was the most cringeworthy to you?
The most cringeworthy, I think, was Ryan. Was that his name? The guy that like tried to take the car away? Brian, yeah. I thought that guy was a complete a-hole. We are trying not to cuss on this show. We're trying to be good people, but I really thought that was an a-hole move. I understand that you're wanting to break in and you're wanting to make time. That specific way to do it was very much a jerk move. And I think it says a lot about male aggression, and honestly, I just thought that it was offensive in a lot of ways. I'm surprised that he was given a rose by the end of the night. So,
well, as someone who has watched since the very beginning, I can definitely tell you that the producers made her keep him. Because they have to have drama. And so they got to keep him on for some drama.
Yeah.
Also, when you're down from 30-something, 32 guys and getting rid of 7 guys, I mean, maybe the ones that she let go were even more bland than he was.
Brian wasn't bland. He was just a jerk.
But that's what I mean. Maybe he rose higher than those other 7 people that she sent home.
He was more memorable, you're saying.
Yeah.
You've talked about this before when we've watched previous seasons, that sometimes the producers make them keep people on the show. Why do you think that is? Just because they bring the drama?
Yeah. I mean, I think that they need some interest to keep people watching, that it can't just solely be Jen finding her happy ending. There has to be twists and turns. There has to be something that keeps people watching, that keeps it interesting and different. There's always the most dramatic season of The Bachelorette you've ever seen is always a thing. And, tonight they mix it up not only by using a different mansion than we're used to. I know you mentioned before you liked watching Listen to Your Heart. That was filmed at the same mansion.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the first night, usually the guys will move into the mansion, and she announced that she's taking all of them to Melbourne, Australia. That's actually a really big deal considering the number of people that they are taking to Australia. That does cost production a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, those guys are going to be in that 14-hour flight in economy. Mm-hmm. But that's still a lot of money that production is shelling out for all these guys to go to Australia.
And see, I think what that says to me is that this entire season is going to be fake. It's going to be put up by the producers because there's really no time for them to get to know Jen or for Jen to get to know them. I mean, she meets them, they're on a plane, they go to Australia. It's just, there's no possible way that she can know these people in a real way. That's what it says to me, is that the producers are in control of this season, and yeah.
I mean, I think they're always in control to some degree. And I think that once they're in, travel days are travel days. Once they're in Australia, they're going to have the same length of time for their dates. They'll just maybe be jet lagged. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think, the producers, it's not a super fake show, but they do egg people on in the way that they like those when the person is interviewing at the camera. Like, the producers are going to ask questions to, like, probe them to say certain things or probe them to make them cry or, those sorts of things. But I want to ask you, as, like, an English professor and a historian of language, I'm going to call you, like, we heard her talk about, a forever love, a fearless love. Sam M talked about reckless love. Tell me first, someone said ferocious love. So I want you to define ferocious for me, and then I want you to tell me a little bit about the different kinds of love.
Yeah. So I would say, like, a ferocious love is a more primal, animalistic, more lust kind of love that is debatable whether it is even love. I think historically, coming out of the Greek tradition, you have a couple of concepts of love that Plato and the other philosophers talk about. One of those is more brotherly love, phileo. It's more family, you could say. Like, there's no romance to it. There's no sexuality to it. It's just you like this person at a heart level, and that's kind of where it ends. You have eros, which is more that ferocious love, a more sexual love, that chemistry, we might say. I don't think, the way that I talk about this in my class is that eros is not really we don't have to think about it in terms of a lustful or a sexual kind of appreciation of someone. That very much is like that chemistry, that initial spark that happens, and that is definitely an element of love. I mean, it's an ongoing thing in every solid relationship, I would say, is that there has to be some sort of chemistry and attraction there. And then there is, particularly in the Christian tradition, we would talk about, like, agape love, which is a more spiritually based, a more holistic kind of love. And so when it comes to ferocious love, I would say that's probably that more chemistry based, that initial spark, lust, sexuality. And, Jen said that. I mean, who was the contestant that she said, he has all the qualities that I want. He's hot, and he's hot. And, I think that it goes both ways. There's nothing wrong with that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely saw some of that with Sam M. He's the one who described it as reckless love, and ultimately he got the first impression rose. Big deal. You're more the English guy. I have a little bit of a math background, a tiny bit of a math background, but I do want to give a shout out to bachelordata. On Instagram, follow at bachelordata. She gets, like, incredible stats of how long people have been together and all of that. So just before the show, I saw 47% of first impression rose winners go on to win or get the final rose. And when she gave him that first impression rose tonight, she was, like, hungry for that kiss. So he was the only one who got a kiss tonight, and they were into it.
As a college instructor, I would say 47% is failing. Those are failing numbers. That's not good. But I hear it in context. It's okay.
I mean, it's not about overall, but, like, you have 47%. You have a decent, although not a majority shot.
Yeah, it's not even 50-50.
Yeah. I think it's gone down more recently, maybe.
So, coming back to this idea of love, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, like, do you think that love is about fate, or is it a choice that you make every day? Is it, what is your idea of love?
I mean, I think you touched on a few different types of love. I think it's a couple different things. I definitely believe that you need some of that ferocious love, that chemistry. But I also think that you wake up every day and choose love. I know I wake up every day and choose love, especially when you're in a marriage or living together for multiple years. Like, there are hard days, and so you wake up and you choose it every day. And I think that that's like one of the challenges of The Bachelor and Bachelorette is like they are under such a short time span to get to know each other, and so it can be deep in terms of conversation, but like they're getting maybe at most one night away from the cameras, and they're not just like living regular life. And so I think it's a lot harder for them when the show ends for them to wake up every morning and choose love.
Yeah.
Because they're still building that love at the beginning.
Yeah. I think about being raised by two people who were pretty active inside of their churches, and growing up in that environment, that the way that love was almost, I really don't remember it any other way until I was in my 20s. Love, it was repeatedly put to us as, it's a choice every day. Marriage is hard. It's horrible. It's, you have horrible days. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. And I remember by about my 20s, I was pretty tired of that because I had heard that so many times, and I just felt like, what is it what is this thing that we are all attracted to in rom-coms, in drama movies, that it's not presented as a labor that you have to choose to dedicate yourself to this hard work every day. What is this thing that we're all really attracted to? That it comes easy, that there is this spark, this chemistry, where it's not just this hard, tough choice that you have to make every day. I think that's a big problem that we see in this show. Yeah,
but I also think that comes later. I do think like what I love about rom-coms, and I think it's also real life of like, now that I have found my person, and I know that I will say right now, I know that this is hard for single people to hear, but I really believe that when you know, you know. I mean, I think we were 4 months in when I was starting to talk about marriage because I knew that I wanted to be with you. And I don't know if that comes, I think some of that comes with age, but I actually think more than anything, like I really believe that, it's not, I wouldn't call it love at first sight because our first date was a little awkward, but I would say like when you know, you know. And I really do believe that.
And I would say by the end of the first date, maybe not in those initial first few minutes of meeting one another, but by the end of the date, I remember that I was in the car, I was driving home, and a friend called. She was going through something at that point with her family, and she called and she said, well, how'd the date go? And I said, what I thought. And I remember that she said, it sounds like you're in trouble. And I said, yeah, I think I am. Like I knew, like Lizzie said, like I knew pretty much right away that maybe I was resistant to the idea of her being the one, and this cliched way that we can kind of see what we want to see and believe what we want to believe about a partner. But I knew right away that there was something different. And, I think that expression is true. You know when you know. Yeah.
So you're telling me I'm right?
Moving on. I would like us to dive into this thing that she said about feeling worthy. That is how she ended the episode, is talking about saying, I feel worthy, that she felt she wanted to be someone's first choice. And the way that she was unpacking this night of meeting people was that she said she wasn't fully convinced that she was their first choice, but she did notice that they kept saying it, that she was their first choice, that they were excited to be there for her. And that, is when she started to cry, is when she said she felt chosen and she felt worthy. Lizzie, you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like you're just trying to get me to cry on this podcast.
No, not at all.
I'm not there yet, no. I mean, like we've said before, you know, she is the first Asian American Pacific Islander Bachelorette. There's not a lot of diversity. And I think that, you know, she probably already felt special being chosen as the Bachelorette, but then to be able to go on this journey and meet these guys, and yes, the producers are getting these guys on the show, but especially at the end of the night when you have people coming back to talk to you for a second time, or coming over and pulling you aside instead of you as the Bachelorette pulling a guy aside, I think that makes, you know, I think that would make anyone feel special, that like people are coming over to you and wanting to spend time with you. I saw Jen posted on her Instagram, like there was a billboard of her in Times Square, and she's like, this is for all the guys who thought I was awkward in childhood.
That's great revenge, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think she looked amazing. I think, you know, clearly the hair team was trying to get her hair to last all night, and so it was really, really big at the beginning of the night, which was kind of a lot for me, so I was glad to see it fall a little bit as I got later. You know, they film these first shows for like hours. I mean, it literally doesn't start until like 9 or 10 at night, I think. And it was broad daylight out if you looked at the episode at the end. I certainly could not do that. I mean, I definitely would be someone to go and find a place to take a nap if I was on the show. I could not do those all-nighters, but more power to them. I mean, I think that also probably contributes to emotions and feeling tired. But I'm really happy for her, and I'm really excited to see what kinds of adventures they go on. Like, she loves adventure, and so I think they're probably going to do some cool, you know, maybe some bungee jumping, especially if they're going to Australia or New Zealand. So I'm excited to see what's in store for the season for her.
So you kind of dodged the question, and I'm going to pick it back up. This idea of like being chosen and being worthy, I think, is really important to all of the seasons that I've seen of both The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and all the spinoffs there, is that I think that the premise of the show, the popularity of the show, is really about picking, choosing, and that specialness that you feel when you are the special one, when you're the one that people want and that you yourself are also selecting. It's a kind of a mutual agreement that you see something special in the other person. I think that maybe we make a lot of this chosenness of fate, of, you know, well, they were always meant to be together. You know, it's like Romeo and Juliet. I always have to remind my students, Romeo and Juliet, they die at the end. Like this whole idea of like, they were star-crossed lovers, they die. It's terrible. You don't want to be that person. I think that really what we all want is to feel chosen and special in the eyes of someone else. And when we see that in someone else and it's reciprocated, I think really that's the spark that we are all truly looking for. And unfortunately, not to sound like an old-timer, but I think that we, for some reason, for a lot of reasons, I think that is a lost form of currency. It's not like, oh, we don't do things the way we used to do anymore, like I'm a grandpa. It's that for some reason, like we have lost the ability to show people, you are special to me. Here is how you are special to me. And I would not be the same person without you. In all kinds of relationships, our romantic relationships, our work relationships, we, for some reason, are losing this value. And I think that is the secret ingredient, the secret sauce to the success of all of these shows, is that we are all wanting to feel special, and we see that in these shows over and over. So,
I mean, you just hit at, without naming it, like the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
So highly recommend anyone checking that out. Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman, 5 love languages.
They also have one for the workplace and things like that, because love languages are critical to people understanding you and you understanding people and how you give and receive love. Jen actually, without like naming that explicitly, there was someone who gave her some words of affirmation, and she named like, thank you so much. I love verbal affirmation. That's great.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like contributed to helping her feel worthy. I know for us, like we have different love languages, your quality time, and I mean a few others, but quality time is a big one for you. Acts of service, words of affirmation for me.
Yeah.
And you do a fantastic job, even though acts of service may not be how you feel love from other people. You know that matters to me. And so you show me that every day.
I try.
You do a great job.
I try. There's always room for improvement. Well, any other thoughts?
I'm excited to see Melbourne. Should we start saving for our trip to Australia?
Yeah, we thought about going there for our honeymoon for a hot sec. We were going to go to Australia and New Zealand, and instead we decided to slum it in Paris and London. Womp womp. It was fantastic. I loved going to Paris. I'm looking forward to next week as well. I'm looking forward to seeing Australia.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the guys' personalities and
For sure.
Hopefully having them focus on Jen and not on each other. So
We'll see.
We'll see how next week
how
goes.
next week goes.
Have a great week.
All right, bye-bye.